Cosmonauts could be reaching the moon without a super heavy launch vehicle. This is what they believe. They aim to put an observatory, a permanent observatory on the south pole of the moon. They originally said that they would have robots on there and then send astronauts whenever the robots couldn't do what had to be done. But anyway, the Russian Space Agency, the industry giant Energia, involved in the production of everything from rockets and satellites to space stations and ballistic missiles, and is the prime mover behind the current Russian manned spaceflight programs. Korolev Rocket and Space Corporation Energia created and patented a means to fly cosmonauts to the moon and back without an expensive new heavy launch rocket. As we know, they're already using the Soyuz to take astronauts to the ISS. Now, what is this new rocket, which is not heavy? The technical result of the method is the possibility of transporting crew between a near-Earth orbit station and a base station on the surface of the moon. They would be using reusable manned spacecraft without the use of super heavy launch vehicles and aerodynamic braking. This is a description of the patent published by the Russian Federation Service for Intellectual Property reads. That's what it says. Transporting the crew between a near-Earth orbit station, that is an ISS, or the ISS near Earth, or they did talk about putting another space station orbiting the moon. So they could be taking the astronauts from these space stations and shuttling them to the moon without the heavy rockets. Now, to land cosmonauts on the moon and bring them back home, the patented system requires a Soyuz 2.1, a rocket, and 3 upgraded Angara A5V rockets, and it works as follows. 1. The Angara A5V is sent to the moon with a fuel model on board. 2. The cosmonauts are transported to the International Space Station or other space station aboard a Soyuz 2.1A rocket inside the Soyuz MS spacecraft. 3. From there, the cosmonauts transferred to a reusable spacecraft capsule capable of lunar takeoff and landing. A second Angara A5V delivers an upper stage and tanker vessel. The upper stage is used to send the manned spacecraft or tanker combo to the moon. 4. Upon making it to the lunar orbit, the reusable lander detaches, makes its way to the landing zone of the refueling model delivered earlier, fuels up for takeoff back into lunar orbit, and before departure docks with the orbiting tanker and fuels up for the flight back to Earth. Number 5. Next, the tanker ships is deorbited and falls to the moon, while the reusable lander complex begins to journey home. Now, 5, as we said before, the tanker ship is deorbited and falls to the moon, while the reusable lander complex begins to journey home. What happens when you keep on sloughing off the tanker ships to fall to the moon? Does that mean that the moon is going to contain a pile of rubbish, of discarded tanker ships, like a mountain of debris of tanker ships? God forbid. Number 6. On the way, it docks with the third Angara A5V for mid-flight refueling. Finally, it docks with the space station orbiting Earth, where crew are transferred back to the Soyuz MS spacecraft and sent back to our planet. In the patent description, Energia concludes that this method has significantly lower costs for the development, production, and testing compared to prospective alternatives. Now, Russian Space Agency Roscosmos approved a preliminary design for the Yenisei Super Heavy Launch Vehicle and its super heavy lift version, the Dawn, last year. The Yenisei is expected to be able to take a payload of over 100 tons into low Earth orbit, or a 27-ton payload to the moon. The Dawn variation is expected to have a maximum payload of 140 tons, or deliver a 33-ton useful cargo to the moon. Testing of the Yenisei is expected to begin in 2028 if everything goes to plan and the necessary funding is provided. The rockets are required to be capable of launching a 20-ton Oriole spacecraft expected to replace the Soyuz, plus a 27-ton lunar lander, and base modules weighing between 27 and 32 tons. Now, last year, Deputy Prime Minister for Defense and Space Industry Yuri Borisov estimated that the Super Heavy Launch Vehicle program could cost between 1 trillion and 1.7 trillion rubles. That's 14 to $23.7 billion respectively. For comparison, Roscosmos' 2020 budget is $2.77 billion. Now, Energia itself has experience in the development of heavy lift rockets, creating the Energia heavy lift rocket with a 100-ton useful payload capacity in the 1980s, and using it to carry the Buran Soviet space shuttle into orbit in 1988 for a test flight. Unfortunately, the rocket was retired after the collapse of the Soviet Union, but modified versions of its engines have gone on to be used to power both Russian and American space rockets. This is according to Sputnik News by Ilya Sukhanov. Please leave your comments. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.